A happy Thursday out there. Hopefully everyone is doing great. First week of January, we got a lot going on. We've got an article up on ESPN.com that we posted Thursday morning. We kind of went back and looked at the transactions from the offseason and wrote about some of them. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything kind of in between. We did not take the Lillard trade, the Drew Holiday trade. We've kind of focused on those in-between transactions, and I thought we'd do a little bit of a video on it to kind of give you a sense as far as what is up there. That was an article that originally was going to come out in December, but when teams are 10-8 and 10-9, it's like, how do you kind of write about the Mavericks or Houston or some of these other teams? So before we do this, so news came out on Thursday that Brooklyn was fined $100,000. That was the most for the first violation for violating the player participation policy. And if everyone's thinking, wait a minute, Ben Simmons was hurt, he had a legitimate excuse, and it only impacts stars, think again. It doesn't. And I think Joe Dumars had a lot of interesting quotes. Tim Bontemps wrote about it, where, basically Brooklyn plays in Detroit last Tuesday, and then they mailed it in on Wednesday against Milwaukee, where they rested 4 starters, and then Mikal Bridges and Cam Thomas, I think there might be another person, played 13 minutes in that game. And that's a clear violation under the player participation policy. The Nets were fined for it. 50% of that money goes to the Players Association. The league is going to ding you if you basically, no offense, but they give them the middle finger. And I didn't understand the rationale before that. I know Jacques Vaughn came out and said, well, it was back-to-back, and then Brooklyn, we had 4 games on a road trip here. But, man, we're at game 32, game 33, somewhere around there, and we're already shutting down 4/5 of your starters. That was pretty interesting in itself. I've seen a lot of things. Not sure if I've seen that quite early in the season. So Brooklyn gets dinged. Ironically, they haven't won a game since that Detroit game. 15-20, I believe. What are they? 13-10, 2-10 in the last 12. And that's the other thing. We've got one of the things that we're doing right now is we're getting this trade deadline guide going. We've got about 4 teams written. Got a lot to do. And we talk about Brooklyn and some of these other teams in there. That's going to come out at the end of January. I think the 23rd, 24th, Eastern and Western Conference trade guide. So let's start a little bit about the article here. First, we talked about Kristaps Porzingis. When you win, I'm just pulling up the article. When you win 66% of your regular season games, you get to an NBA Finals, you get to an Eastern Conference Finals, you're 1 game away from getting to another NBA Finals, and everyone on your roster is under contract except for Grant Williams. It's easy to be, hey, continuity, right? We're going to figure it out again. We'll tweak a little bit here. Another year of Joe Mazzulla. Let's ride with this group, especially when you have a player like Marcus Smart. Boston did not do that, as we know. They did the 3-team trade with Memphis and the Wizards, where they acquired Kristaps Porzingis. Remember, that was right before, right around the night of the draft. Porzingis had an opt-in date. He elected to opt in on the condition that he was being traded to Boston, and then goes to the Celtics in that trade. Marcus Smart goes to Memphis. First round pick goes to the Celtics from Golden State. That was eventually traded in the Drew Holiday trade. Grant Williams, separate deal, goes to Dallas in a sign and trade. Boston gets a bunch of seconds. They get a $6.2 million trade exception. And Porzingis this year has been fantastic. He was great with the. I want to say Washington, but I always think Malik Andrews is going to tease me here. With the Wizards, he was terrific. He was healthy. That's the big thing. He was on JJ Redick's podcast. I thought that was tremendous. Where basically he said he was a decoy in Dallas, and then he kind of just did it spitefully here. I think you saw that in that Clipper playoff series. I think that was 3 years ago here. But Porzingis has been awesome for them. gives them a legitimate post-up. I mean, we write about the numbers. 53.5% on shots, 67 on twos. Last year, Boston ranked 26th in post-ups. This year, they're 9th. So Porzingis has given them a different dynamic. Has held opponents to 43% shooting as a contesting defender on paint shots. Third best among all players. So he has given them a different dynamic. They are 26-7. Tough loss in Oklahoma City. We'll talk more about Boston trade deadline as we get close. We might be doing a little bit of a series here. Houston is remarkable as far as what they've done. 17, 20, and 22 games the previous 3 seasons, right? You had to go out and hire a coach, Ime Udoka. They go out and do that. How do you balance cap space and not impeding your young players? Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Alperen Sengun, young players like that. You get Fred VanVleet, which is a rarity. All-star type free agents do not change teams. Kudos for Houston to do that. You did the Dillon Brooks signing trade. You went out and signed Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday, Boban, Jock Landale, some veterans there. I wrote about it. The greatest unknown, and as great of a year Houston is having, they had basically a deal with Brook Lopez all done, okay? Brook goes back to Milwaukee. Houston has Sengun. He's been your best player. Could you imagine that Houston gets Lopez? He's playing 30, 35 minutes, and Sengun is limited to 15 minutes. Sometimes you catch a break in this league from a basketball, from a transactional standpoint. And Brook's been good, but Houston certainly has caught a break. Udoka has been tremendous. I mean, listen, look at this one. Ranked 6th in defensive efficiency last year. They were 29th. Last in 21-22. I mean, they've got flexibility this upcoming offseason to go out and add an impact player again. Tim Connelly, right? Tim Connelly was a piñata a year ago with the Rudy Gobert trade, how much he gave up. Walker Kessler's all rookie, better than Gobert, blah, blah, blah. Minnesota's screwed. Twin Towers don't work. The list goes on. And now they're sitting, have lost a couple games, are sitting number 1 in the Western Conference and are on pace to have home court advantage, at least for a round for the first time since 2004, right? Could have panicked. Could have fired Chris Finch. Could have gone in a different direction, but he didn't. He goes out and signs Naz Reid, commits $206 million to Anthony Edwards, $131 million to Jaden McDaniels, goes out and builds a bench with Shake Milton, Troy Brown, Nikhil Alexander, 2-year contracts, which is important. Excuse me, I got a little bit of scratchy throat. 2-year contracts, which is important because this team could be heading towards the tax. They would only have the veteran minimum. So Tim Connelly, kudos to you for staying patient. Creativity and Big D. I found this quote pretty interesting. This was after Dallas beat Phoenix Christmas Day. As I've always said, we can't take him for granted. Jason Kidd on Luka Doncic, and that's basically the theme of how Dallas operated last offseason. Limited flexibility to add. They go out and re-sign. Let's start the night of the draft. You move Bertans to OKC. You go from 10 to 12. You trade for you draft Derek Lively. You go out and trade for Rashawn Holmes. You get the 24th pick. Omax Prosper, who we haven't seen yet. Nice young wing, right? You've got enough flexibility because Kyrie takes a $10 million discount under the luxury tax and apron to go out and get Seth Curry, Dwight Powell, Derek Jones, Dante Exum. Combined $13 million between those 4. And then you get Grant Williams in a sign and trade. Dallas is hanging on to that top 6 area right here. But considering where they are, kudos to the Mavericks front office. Listen, the Bradley Beal trade is an incomplete. I am not ready to pour gasoline on that. Just based on Beal's, he's back. They've played better. They get shellacked against the Clips. No Durant. Incomplete regarding the Bradley Beal trade. But the reality is that there are going to be some, and Phoenix knew this going in, there are going to be some serious ramifications if this thing doesn't work. You've got $150 million committed to Beal, Booker, and Durant next year, $200 million in salary, all these restrictions that are going to be coming in. We're going to be talking about them more. What do you do about Grayson Allen, who's going to be a free agent? It's going to cost you a lot of money here. And it's basically Western Conference Finals or bust for this Phoenix team. They've got a bunch of trade exceptions up to the draft. If those are not up to the deadline, trade deadline February 8th, if those are not used, those go away because of the restrictions that are coming here. We've talked a lot about Phoenix. So I'm not ready to give a grade to the Bradley Beal trade. That is an incomplete right now. We still got a long way to go here for Phoenix to figure it out. We've got a section on the under $3 million club. Certainly Kelly Oubre is the captain of the under $3 million club, has been terrific in Philadelphia. I mean, 47 from the field, 38 from three. You know, the big thing, I mean, he signed a $2.9 million contract on September 26th. I mean, that is amazing here, and he has been tremendous. The Heat, everybody said when they lost Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, panic in Miami, their depth, they're screwed. They go out and draft Jaime Jaquez, who I have number 3 on my rookie board right now. Josh Richardson, Thomas O'Brien, Orlando Robinson, Jamal Cain, R.J. Hampton. Those are not your homegrown names here. Bench ranked 6th in points. Last season, 25th. They've done a tremendous job, as always, in Miami. Golden State, Dario Saric, big thing. And J.J. Redick had said about it is that they didn't have that stretch big, right? Draymond, Kevon Looney. You go out and get Saric, 39% from 3, 10.2. He's been a big lift. Lonnie Walker was good in Brooklyn before he got hurt. Malik Beasley, besides from a defensive standpoint, listen, he signed for the minimum. 49% from the field, 47% from 3, 5th among all players in effective field goal percentage. For the veteran minimum, he belongs on the under $3 million club. And then we look at a bunch of more of these offseason transaction notes, right? Kind of quick hitters. DeJounte Murray, we're hearing a lot about his name regarding trade rumors. Signs an extension in the offseason. Tucked away in there in Exhibit 4 is a 15% trade bonus. So if DeJounte Murray is traded on, closer to February 8th, $13 million he's owed by Atlanta. That number gets added over the course of his contract divided. So basically an additional, $3.5 million gets added to the salary cap here. But not only did Atlanta trade 2 number 1s unprotected, a pick swap in that deal, can you imagine you got to pay him $13 million besides that? We'll keep an eye on that. Herb Jones, we talk about him a lot New Orleans basically could have exercised his option, have him on this $1.8 million or $2 million contract below the luxury tax. They wouldn't have to worry about paying the tax for the first time in history. They declined the option. They signed Jones to that 4-year, $54 million contract. They're in the tax. But on the other end, if you play out the year, what's Herb Jones going to be looking for? 4 for 90? Is he looking for Jaden McDaniels' number? 5 for 130? It would have cost them probably plus $60, $70 million. So kudos for New Orleans, even though it's going to bite them a little bit right now. Cleveland, we talk about a lot. Strus, George Niang, Karis LeVert, Craig Porter to a 2-way has been great. 5-3 in the in non-Mitchell games since Mobley and Garland were out. Those newcomers have helped stabilize it. Mo Wagner, 2 for 16, second year is not a team option. Really good in Orlando. It's going to be tough as far as finding minutes with Carter back and Goga there. That's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. Indiana, we kind of rewound the clock a little bit. We looked at that Brogdon trade that eventually turned into Aaron Nesmith, a future first from Denver, and Bruce Brown. Why I say Bruce Brown, not part of the deal. cap space from the Brogdon trade allows Indiana to go out and sign Brown. Neesmith has been tremendous this year. Signed that 3-year, $33 million extension. 12 points, 51 from the field, 47 from 3. He's been awesome. And then finally, Detroit. Oh, Detroit. 3-30. Maybe 3-31. I don't think we updated after that Utah game on Wednesday night. On pace to finish, to have the worst record in NBA history. Entered free agency with $30 million in cap space. Elected it to use it on Joe Harris, Monty Morris. They did get 2 seconds. Harris is averaging 2.3 points per game. 29% from 3. And Monty Morris has not suited up for the Pistons because of a right thigh injury. And that is the symbol of kicking cap space down the road. So that is it. Go out and read the article. What do we got on deck? We got rookie rankings, January 15th. We've got another article with my friend Tim Bontemps about the trade deadline. We've got the trade guides out there at the end of January. We're working on that right now. I'm in the C's, 3 teams a day. They're exhausting. I wrote Atlanta, and I needed a nap after that. So have a great Thursday. Have a great weekend. Only 2 games on the schedule, and we will talk soon.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Keep them going, try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA, it's too far.